The Triangle Protocol. A tale of codes and consequences. Chapter 1, Nova.
The attic was a cramped, claustrophobic nest of forgotten machinery and brittle memories. Cables lay tangled like slumbering serpents across cracked floorboards, broken radios sagged beneath brittle sheets of yellowed paper. Pale, fractured light seeped through a cracked window, casting dust motes adrift in the stale, solder-scented air, a fragile pocket where time itself seemed to pause. Nova sat cross-legged between two fractured radio panels, fingers smeared with gel, half-wrapped cables snaking like veins from her wrists. Rain hammered a steady, urgent rhythm against the slanted glass, as if demanding entry. She didn't look up, eyes glued to her hacked rig, fingers twisting the dial with precision honed from sleepless nights. Static hissed, a cold whisper in the silence. Frustration tightened her chest. She yanked open Elias's ancient notebook, pages brittle with age, ink bleeding through like spectral stains. On the inside cover, his looping scrawl, property of Elias Ward. If Nova steals this again, tell Mom. She almost smiled, almost. Her gaze snagged on a hurried note further in, scrawled in his jagged hand, looping. Elias had underlined it twice, the pen gouging faintly through the next page. Beneath it, smaller and rushed, not a glitch. It's part of the game. She frowned. What game? Elias hated that kind of phrasing, too vague, too dramatic. If he wrote this, he meant it. Her breath caught. This entry was written 2 days before he vanished. She reached for the pliers, hope faltering, as the handle shattered clean off beneath her grip. Seriously? Her voice was barely more than a breath, sharp with disbelief. For a heartbeat, she froze, rain tapping, static sighing, before shoving the broken tool aside and grabbing a screwdriver. Fine. Be that way. A glitch cut through the static, a hiccup, a breath held, and then pop. Click. Pulse. Her fingers moved without thought, twisting the knob. Another pulse thrummed through the speakers. Okay. This is new. Her voice was soft, disbelief threading the calm. Yeah, sure. Random noise on a dead channel at 2:03 a.m. She should have been asleep. Instead, she was decoding ghosts. It repeated, a slow, deliberate knock. Suddenly, her laptop blinked to life. No boot screen. No loading bar. Just a pale square glowing with strange symbols. One blinked insistently, 3 lines forming a triangle. That symbol wasn't in any manual. Nova's hand froze over the keyboard. The room shifted, neither hostile nor safe, just wrong. Like standing on air. Someone, something, seemed to be behind the static. She typed it slowly. Hello? Anyone there? Nothing. Leaning back, headset clamping over her ears, she listened. Outside, the rain softened, the signal held. The house stood hollow and worn, peeling paint curling like dead skin, vines clawing up cracked walls as if swallowing it whole. Dim windows stared blankly into dusk, guarding brittle secrets behind cracked curtains. Inside, dust thickened over creaking floors, faded wallpaper curled like drying leaves. Forgotten furniture sagged beneath the weight of years, yellowed photos glaring from cracked frames, shadows lurking in corners like restless ghosts. Her mother slept nearby, the fridge humming like a slow heartbeat in the silence. Her father was gone, lost to a war no one spoke of anymore. But Nova was on the rooftop, listening to something that shouldn't exist. Great. Ghost signals and more trouble. Rain hissed on cold metal panels, chill pressing in. Beside her lay Elias's old headset, untouched since he vanished. Not because it didn't work, it still did. Still alive. She touched it briefly first. Eyes closed. A small sigh. Elias. Elias would have laughed at her nerves, logged the signal, torn it apart, told her to calm down. She didn't believe in ghosts. But this signal pulsed. The comm tower loomed, skeletal and rusted against bruised skies, groaning with the wind. Red warning lights blinked in mechanical rhythm every 6 seconds, a faint glow casting twisted shadows over the empty lot. Jagged antennae scraped clouds like claws, hunting secrets in the thick air. The sharp scent of wet copper and ozone clung heavy. From her vantage, Nova saw the tower's red light pulse, steady, precise. Somehow, she'd always found comfort in that rhythm. It calmed her down when nothing else could. But tonight? It didn't calm her a damn bit. The light seemed different, blinking faster, uneven. That's not 6 seconds, she frowned, eyes narrowing against the bruised horizon. Her fingers trembled slightly as she pulled the scanner from her pocket. The device hummed softly, its low drone blending with the steady patter of rain on rusted metal. She adjusted the dial, eyes flicking between the blinking beacon and the readout. Her breath caught as the numbers aligned, the tower's red pulse and the mysterious signal beat in perfect sync. Not coincidence. Not at all. A jagged streak of lightning split the sky, and thunder cracked sharply, slicing through the sudden stillness in her mind. The storm was there, but it was nothing compared to the storm brewing beneath the blinking lights. Slowly, she crawled to the vent stack, then froze. Something waited. A small black case, seamless and smooth, no seams or latches. A dull triangle etched in its surface pulsed faint red. She hadn't put it there. No one could have. Perfect. A random hardware box on the roof. Exactly how horror movies start. She crouched beside it, fingers trembling. The triangle blinked faster, alive beneath her touch. Warmth radiated softly, not heat, but awareness. She didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, she whispered, "What are you? Who put you here?" Touched the glowing box. What could go wrong? The device opened soundlessly, sliding apart. Inside, a small, matte black receiver, buttonless, its thin screen flickering on. Her watch, Elias's old analog one, began ticking faster, hands racing unnaturally. She yanked her wrist back like it burned. "Nope," she muttered. Absolutely nope. But the watch kept spinning. She staggered back, heart pounding in her throat. The receiver pulsed once. Text scrolled across the screen, 72 hours 0 minutes 0 seconds. "What is this?" she whispered. A timer? A game? Or maybe a call to something? She shook her head. None of it made sense. The wind rustled through the vents, the rain softened to a gentle patter. Below, the city dreamed on, unaware. Above, the tower blinked once. Twice. Then died.
Chapter 2. Receiver.
The hatch clicked shut behind her. Nova slid the bolt with practiced fingers, quicker than thought, reflex over reason. She stood frozen in the attic's dim half-light, breath-catching, eyes drawn to the restless shadows. No movement. No screams. Just the cold hiss of static. The countdown ticked on. 71 hours 59 minutes 48 seconds. She exhaled through clenched teeth, the sound sharp in the silence. Okay. So. It's still going. Whatever it is. Elias's watch had stopped ticking, right as the countdown began. Nova couldn't help but curse under her breath. Damn it, why now? Sliding into her usual spot between the tuner rigs, she yanked the secondary cable bank loose. It changed nothing, the signal pulsed, relentless, unyielding. Pop. Click. Pulse. Her fingers fumbled for the recorder and hit record. Old habit, old instinct, not because she thought this was anything special, but Elias always said, record at everything, even noise. Static or not, this was something she couldn't ignore. Not my problem now, she told herself. Not tonight. Exhaustion had finally taken her, just strange tech and rain-brain paranoia. She shoved the recorder into her bag and wiped rain from her brow, the weight of the day pressing heavy on her shoulders. Curiosity flickered, but the fog in her mind smothered it fast. Some questions would have to wait. With a final glance at the blinking tower, she turned away, promising herself she'd face it all tomorrow. Leaning back, headset snug over her ears, she scanned the frequencies. The attic felt colder, the air thick with waiting. Until the tuner array blinked. Once. Twice. Then all 5 lights flared red, perfectly synced to the pulse. Her phone buzzed. The symbol of a triangle appeared, clean, sharp-edged, metallic gray. As if it were an app. One she didn't recognize. One she hadn't installed. She frowned. No name beneath it. Just the shape. Equilateral. Too perfect. Like it had been etched onto the screen, not rendered by software. That damn triangle hovered on her lock screen. No notification. No sender. She powered it off. Moments later, it flickered back on. Nope. She yanked the rig's cable from the wall. It whined, died. Then rebooted itself. Triangle again. One line pulsing. Pop. Click. Pulse. Her laptop screen glowed. No boot, no login. Just a folder, /echo_7. She stared. Frozen. Didn't move. But it opened itself. Inside, an audio file. No name. No metadata. Nothing but silence. Her hand trembled, reached for the headset. Slid it back on. Click. Static. She ripped the headset off like it burned her skin. Her stomach flipped. Her mouth went dry. Every hair on her arms stood on end, as if the attic itself had shuddered beneath her feet. Then the static hummed again, heavier, darker, waiting. It was Elias's voice. No, she whispered, voice breaking, too loud in the silence. No. That's not. She stumbled back, crashing into the wall. A box toppled, cables spilling in a tangled mess like dead vines. Her chest tightened, burning with a desperate need to breathe, yet she dared not. It couldn't be him. It was him. Elias. The voice carried weight. Memory. Something alive, not just a recording, but a fractured presence bleeding through static. She reached to delete the file. It vanished. The triangle blinked again. The tuner pulsed in perfect sync with her watch. 71 hours 51 minutes 3 seconds. Her phone vibrated. A text. Middle of the night, her phone buzzed. Had to be Milo, her neighbor. Milo, Nova? You still up? Something weird, my dad's old watch just started ticking. Really fast. Nova froze. The air thinned around her. Another text arrived. Milo, also. Triangle thing on my tablet. It won't go away. Hands trembling, Nova pulled open her messages. She typed, Milo. Then hesitated, swallowing down the words. After a moment, she tried again, did you hear anything? Like a voice? No reply. Her thumb hovered uncertainly. The memory of Elias's voice echoed in her mind, too raw, too real to simply text away. Her eyes snapped to the window, toward Milo's house. A lone island of warmth in the night-shrouded street. Torchlight spilled a steady yellow glow over cracked steps and wild shrubs clawing at faded siding. Behind heavy curtains, soft amber light spilled into the darkness. Fleeting shadows shifted, a quiet presence stirring in the stillness. Milo's attic light was on. Just barely, a narrow yellow bar behind thick curtains. Nova crept closer, careful not to shatter the silence. The attic groaned faintly beneath her weight. Her breath fogged the glass. She pressed her forehead to the cold pane. Rain traced slow rivulets, shimmering like liquid glass. No movement. No shadow. Just that light. Her phone buzzed again. She glanced down. Then toward the case. Then the attic door. Whispering to herself, it's not just me. Outside, the red comms tower blinked in perfect rhythm. Once. Twice. Then plunged into darkness.
Chapter 3. Sync.
Sync. The air in the attic had changed. Not colder. Not darker. Just different. Like the floor had inhaled and forgotten to exhale. Nova smelled lemon soap and solder. The old world scent of Elias's workbench. The case still sat near the vent, the triangle dark now, but the countdown hadn't stopped. 71 hours 39 minutes 44 seconds. She wiped her hands on her jeans and crouched again beside the tuner. Still recording. Still pulsing. The feed glitched once. Then held. Milo's name flashed on her screen. Milo, there's a timer on my phone, and it's ticking in the same rhythm as my dad's watch. That's seriously creepy. Nova didn't answer. Not yet. She was staring at the signal's waveform, jagged, clean, then flat. Pop. Click. Nothing. She tapped the feed. No response. Then, pulse. Then two. Then silence. It wasn't noise. It was a rhythm. But not broadcast. Measured. Like it was waiting for her to catch on. She whispered, it's sinking. Then, quieter, but to what? Or worse, what's sinking to it? Behind her, the attic floor creaked. She turned. Fast. Nothing. She opened the triangle folder again. New file. /echo_7/reply.aud. She hesitated. Then pressed play. Nova. His voice. Again. This time steadier. No static veil. Just breath. Too clear. Too present. A faint crackle of ozone buzzed softly in the headset. You're late. Her mind reeled. There was intention in the tone. Awareness. Something alive, something that didn't seem to belong to any saved file. The sound hit her harder than anything physical. It threaded into her bones, sharp and wrong and familiar. Her breath hitched. Her skin prickled. The world tilted. No. No, 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 her heart jackhammered. Tears welled but didn't fall. Her legs didn't trust gravity. She pressed her back against the attic wall, breathing shallow, tasting static in the air. That voice didn't just sound like Elias. It was Elias. Nova, he repeated, I need you to do something for me. It's very important. She listened, confused and silent. I need you to get a key for me. Her breath hitched as Elias's voice returned, clearer now, urgent, clipped, Nova. The key is hidden where the old tracks cross the river. Trust no one. Find it before they do. Check my notebook for the location. The line crackled and faded. Find the key. Find the key. Her fingers trembled. Questions swirled, but one thing was clear, she had to move. A part of her, the reckless, stupid, still hopeful part, wanted to scream into the mic, to ask where he was, to ask what he meant. She didn't. A key? Then the voice was silent. She looked down at the watch, the second hand was locked between ticks. Frozen at 2:03 a.m. the same moment the signal had first pulsed. Milo called. She didn't answer. Instead, she crossed to the window again. Her breath fogged the glass, catching cold. Milo's attic was dark. No flickering LED strips. No warm screen glow. Just blackness where his light should have been. That scared her more than the voice. Where was he texting from? Was it even really him? Then a buzz. Milo again. She backed away from the window slowly, heart pounding behind her ribs like it was trying to warn her of something she couldn't see. Milo, Nova? Are you there? Nova stared at the phone, at the tiny glow of his name, then turned and looked back at the case. It was dark again. Still. Waiting. Her thoughts spiraled, Elias's grin over tangled wires, Milo's voice rising during late-night builds, her own notebook full of signals she wasn't supposed to hear. They'd played with ghosts, thinking they were just glitches. She remembered what Elias had once said, laughing and serious all at once, don't talk back to strange signals. They only learn. She whispered, too late. Outside, the comms tower blinked. Once. Twice. Then the sky turned red, just for a second. Milo texted again. Nova? Without replying, she turned her gaze toward his attic window. Still no lights.
Chapter 4: The Key.
The rain softened to a steady drizzle, whispering against cracked pavement and rusted iron. Nova pulled her jacket tighter, the damp cold bit like a blade against her skin. The headset and recorder at her side felt heavier, an anchor she couldn't escape. Ahead, the old train bridge loomed, a skeletal beast beneath flickering street lamps. Rust gnawed at its bones, vines strangling every beam. Fog crawled low, swallowing the city's distant hum and muting the night's usual chaos. The world held its breath. "A key?" she whispered, a shaky smile tugging at her lips. "Great. Treasure hunting now? What's next?" "A map." Her fingers clenched the crumpled sketch in her pocket, Elias's frantic scrawl marking a spot she dreaded but had to reach. No turning back. No hiding. She quickened her pace. Boots crunched on gravel and dead leaves. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. A sharp snap, branches breaking? She froze. Eyes darted. Nothing. Just shadows thick as ink. At the base of a cracked concrete pillar, Nova dropped to her knees. She brushed aside leaves and dirt, fingers numb with cold, and stopped. A subtle hiss. A shift in the dark. She recoiled. A snake, coiled just inches from where her hand had been. Black and slick, its body pulsed like a loaded wire. They stared at each other. Then it slipped away into the underbrush, silent as breath. Nova exhaled slowly. "Really? A snake?" she muttered. "If you're gonna send one to guard it, at least make it poisonous." She wiped her palms on her coat. "Half this world tried to kill you. The other half couldn't be bothered to try properly." Only then did she move again, carefully scraping the earth aside. Her hand hit something solid. Metal. A box. She yanked it free, heart hammering, dust and rust falling like ash. The triangle in her pocket pulsed violently, a harsh rhythm that seemed to sync with her blood. Her phone vibrated sharply. Trembling, she snatched it up. That must be Milo, she thought. No messages. No missed calls. Just silence. Why did it vibrate then? Oh, she saw it, battery low, 9%, a cold knot tightened in her gut. Milo was gone. A breath rasped in the darkness. Her skin prickled. She stood, muscles taut, scanning fog-shrouded shadows. The bridge seemed to close in, hiding its secrets. Nearby, Milo's house sat swallowed by silence. Porch light dark. Windows shuttered. Nova stepped closer, every nerve screaming. She pressed her palm to the cold door frame, hearing a faint creak from inside. "Milo?" Her voice broke like a cracked whisper. No reply. Shadows flickered. A shape moved behind curtains. Panic exploded in her chest. She stumbled back as night closed in, thick and suffocating. And beneath the stillness, the countdown ticked. Hours later, Nova sat alone, the box open before her. The tarnished key gleamed faintly under the lamp's weak glow. Her fingers shook as they hovered over cold metal. Memories slammed in, Elias's laughter, frantic theories whispered between broken wires, fragile hope. She whispered, voice raw, "I'll find it. I'll find you." Outside, the comm tower blinked. Once. Twice. Then plunged into darkness.
School hack.
Late afternoon light strained through dusty classroom windows, casting pale beams over cracked desks and peeling posters. Nova sat alone, fingers flicking over her laptop keys, the attic mystery buzzing at the edge of her mind. Here, surrounded by fading textbooks and stale air, she hunted answers. Curiosity had dragged her this far, determined to see if the signal had spread beyond her attic's walls. The interface was clunky, slow, but it revealed a hidden folder buried deep within the school's network, /echo_7. She clicked it, breath tight. At first, the screen flooded with garbled code, chaotic static, then ghostly words flickered into view, "Find the third." Her breath caught. Heart hammered. Hands trembling, She fed the data through a decryptor. An audio file appeared. Static hissed, then a whisper, sharp and urgent, "Nova. Time is short." The voice was strange, distant, but its urgency sliced through her like a blade. She tried to log out. The screen jerked and flickered violently. Another message blazed across the display, stark and relentless: "The countdown is closer than you think. I got the key, Elias. Can you hear me?" No answer. A sudden creak shattered the silence, the classroom door. Her eyes snapped up. Empty hallway. Only the flicker of fluorescent lights and the distant murmur of passing students. Heart pounding, she slammed the laptop shut, shoved it into her bag. The weight of this mission crushed down. It wasn't a game anymore. Nova sat alone, the tarnished key resting heavy in her palm. The weight of Elias's words, the vanished signals, and Milo's silence pressed against her chest like a storm waiting to break. There was no time to rest. No space to breathe. If the key beneath the train bridge was just the start, then the signals, the countdown, were far from over. Her fingers trembled as she reached for her laptop. She had to know how deep this went. How far the echo reached. The attic shadows faded behind her as the screen lit up. And the hunt continued.
Chapter 5, The Third.
Nova woke late morning, tangled in blankets and the heavy haze of exhaustion. The attic was silent now, no pulsing signal, no blinking lights. Yet the countdown echoed relentlessly in her mind, a dull, inescapable drumbeat. She sat up slowly, rubbing sleep from her eyes. The watch on her wrist glowed faintly, 70 hours 58 minutes 12 seconds. The numbers didn't lie. A weight settled in her chest, tight, cold, growing heavier by the second. Her mother's voice floated up from downstairs. "Nova, are you coming down? Breakfast's getting cold." "I'm up," Nova called, sharper than she meant. In the kitchen, her mother moved with quiet, practiced grace. Pouring coffee like it mattered. Like the ritual itself kept the cracks from showing. Her eyes, sharp and tired, held too much grief. "You've barely slept," her mother said softly. "You're distant, like you're carrying a secret too heavy to name." Nova stiffened. Fingers curling against her jeans. "It's nothing." Her mother's gaze didn't soften. It hardened, iron forged through years of pain. "I lost my husband. My son. This house is all we have left, our last defense against the world. Don't shut me out now." "Not you." Nova swallowed. The words hit harder than she expected, like something had been waiting to break. Her throat tightened, but she forced herself steady. "I'm not shutting you out." Her mother stepped closer, voice low, fierce, trembling. "I'm scared, Nova. Scared that whatever took them is coming for you too." Silence fell, raw and brittle. The kind of silence that hurts to hold. "I'm fine," Nova whispered. But the words rang hollow, like a pane of glass just before it shatters. Her mother reached out. Fingers brushed hers, small, shaking, real. A lifeline cast across a widening gulf. For a heartbeat, the world paused. Back in the attic, Nova opened Elias's notebook and flipped to the page marked with a torn paperclip. Her finger traced a line of shaky handwriting, the third. That was it. No explanation. No date. Just two words, and beneath them, a faded string of coordinates, half smudged like someone tried to erase them but didn't finish. She frowned. The third what? The third code? The third phase? The third person? Her pulse quickened. Coordinates. But from where? A broadcast tower? One of Elias's test sites? Or was this where the signal started? Or worse, where it ends? She glanced toward the tuner. Still silent. Still counting down. Nova rubbed her thumb over the numbers, smearing them just a little more. The attic creaked above her. Or maybe below. She muttered, "Of course you didn't label it. That'd be too easy." A slow breath. Then she circled the coordinates with her pen and shut the notebook. "I guess I go find out." A memory surfaced, sharp as a blade. Elias, tangled in wires, eyes dark with urgency. It's not just 2 points. There has to be a third. The anchor. The key. She hadn't understood before. She did now. Nova packed her bag, receiver case, notebook, jacket. Her hands moved fast, but her chest felt slow, heavy, like every motion dragged the weight of inevitability behind it. She glanced at the watch again. The numbers slid downward like sand slipping between fingers. 70 hours 54 minutes 27 seconds. What if she failed? What if Elias wasn't just lost? What if he was calling for help? Or worse, what if the signal wasn't reaching out, but spreading? She shoved the thought down. No room for doubt now. At the attic door, she paused. The triangle symbol flickered faintly, low and pulsing, like it was breathing in sync with her heartbeat. Downstairs, the city murmured, distant and strange, like a radio left on in another room. Her mother's voice called again, this time quieter, Nova. Please be careful. Nova hesitated. Then whispered back, always. Outside, the sky hung low and heavy, thick clouds pressing against rooftops. The air smelled of wet asphalt and far-off wood smoke. A world in waiting? She stepped onto the sidewalk, boots tapping softly. The triangle flared once in her palm, a ghost heat she hadn't noticed before. She didn't stop walking. Couldn't. The coordinates called her forward. A flash of movement, a stray cat vanished behind a rusted fence. Nova froze, pulse quickening. For just a moment, the world felt paper-thin, like a veil stretched too far, ready to tear. A low rumble cut through the stillness. A black SUV rolled into view, slow and deliberate. Its tinted windows mirrored the sky, swallowing everything else. Nova's breath caught. The vehicle glided forward, too smooth, too quiet. She'd seen it before. Once parked near the school. Again near the clinic. She hadn't noticed, until now. The SUV slowed. Then stopped. Right in front of her. The door opened with a metallic hiss. A boot hit the pavement. Heavy. Deliberate. Nova's instincts kicked. She dove behind a nearby street lamp, body tight with fear. She didn't move. Didn't breathe. The countdown throbbed in her mind. Tick. 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 She wasn't alone anymore. The race had started. She inhaled, slow and steady. The fear was still there, but beneath it, something else had taken root. Resolve. This wasn't about curiosity anymore. This was war. She would find the third. Whatever it meant. Whatever it cost. The SUV door opened with a hiss. Rain slicked the curb. Nova didn't move. A figure stepped out. Dark coat. Gloved hands. The sort of silence that meant training? Going somewhere, Nova? The voice was male. Mid-40s. Flat. No accent. Weaponized calm. She didn't respond. A drone buzzed faintly above the rooftops. Watching. Listening. She knew better than to run. Not yet. You've triggered 2 silent alarms, the man said. You accessed a quarantined file system and entered a flagged district. He took a slow step forward. That means someone noticed. Nova's jaw clenched. Who are you? He ignored the question. We don't care about your brother. Not directly. We care about containment. Another step. His shadow stretched over the wet sidewalk. You're being offered a choice. You get in, or you disappear. She waited, 2 seconds, maybe 3, and nodded. Then she got in.
Chapter 7. The Passenger.
The interior of the SUV was dark, leather-lined, scrubbed of identity. No logos. No screens. Just a silent driver in front and a man beside her, adjusting his cuffs like this was a boardroom. She stayed low, breath sharp, watching the black SUV idle at the curb. No markings. Tinted windows. Not police. Not military. But the way they moved, calm, surgical, synchronized, screamed government. Or something designed to mimic it. She remembered the drone over the tower. The scrambled feeds. The blackout at school. This wasn't surveillance. It was containment. Then a man stepped out. Neat coat. No insignia. No badge. Just presence, like someone who didn't need credentials to be obeyed. He walked like he'd been trained not to startle. Hands visible. Movements measured. Controlled. His face was calm. Too calm. And beneath his left eye, a faint scar, surgical, precise. The kind you didn't get by accident. When his eyes met hers, they didn't blink. They assessed. Operative. She knew it before he spoke. Nova, right? He said. Flat tone. No inflection. Then, almost gently, we're not here to hurt you. We. Not I. That was protocol. Scripted. Agency speak. Her stomach tightened. He nodded, as if that was enough. You'll call me Shah, he said. But that's just for comfort. Nova didn't speak. You access a signal that doesn't exist on public frequencies. You've carried a tuner that's not registered in any database. And you've been in contact with Elias Kane, who's presumed dead. Nova blinked slowly. He's not dead. No, Shaw said. He's worse. The SUV turned off the main road, veering through an industrial corridor. The headlights caught nothing but fog and fencing. You think you're here by chance? Shaw asked. You're being funneled. Every step. Elias wants you to follow the signal to open something that shouldn't be touched. Nova's fingers curled into fists. Why tell me this? Because we need confirmation. The signal's growing, leaking into systems it was never meant to reach. And something in you responds. He handed her a black envelope. Thin. Sealed. Stamped only with a single symbol, a fractured triangle. Warehouse 9A, Shaw said. Confirm device origin. Do not engage. Why me? Shaw's expression didn't change. And because we don't have time to train someone new. The SUV slowed. Stopped. Nova opened the door. Rain slapped her face. Your brother set this in motion, Shaw added, almost kindly. You get to choose how it ends. Then she stepped into the night.
Chapter 7. Deliver the Key.
Chapter 7. Deliver the Key. The abandoned train station sprawled beneath the city's pulse like a forgotten ghost. Cracked tiles glistened wet under the flickering neon lights, shards of shattered glass scattered like silent witnesses to years of neglect. Concrete pillars stretched upward, their stained surfaces swallowing whole sections of the platform in heavy shadows. Every step Nova took echoed hollowly, swallowed almost immediately by the cavernous emptiness. Her breath formed small clouds in the cold air as she moved swiftly, clutching the worn receiver case tight to her side. The weight of the key inside pressed like a shard of iron against her palm, grounding her as much as it burdened. The scent of rust, old diesel, and forgotten memories clung to the air, haunting reminders that this place had long outlived its purpose. She dared a glance over her shoulder. Nothing. Silence. But beneath her skin, the hairs stood on end. A phantom sense of being watched crept along her spine. Ahead, a shadow detached itself from behind a steel column. The figure stepped forward with slow, deliberate confidence. A hood shadowed their face, revealing nothing but sharp, cold eyes that locked onto Nova's every movement. You're late, the voice said, calm but edged with steel. Nova forced herself to nod, swallowing the lump rising in her throat. Words caught and broke inside her. Hand it over, the figure demanded, voice low and uncompromising. Nova's fingers tightened around the case. The cold metal inside felt like a last tether to Elias, fragile, precious, impossible to lose. The figure's eyes narrowed. Now, deliver it to the old underground station beneath the city. There, you'll find the keeper. Do not trust anyone else. Nova's heart hammered violently. And if I refuse? A cold smile played on the figure's lips. You don't have that choice. Before she could respond, the sudden roar of an engine shattered the stillness. Headlights cut through the darkness like blades. A black SUV screeched to a halt at the station's mouth, doors flinging open with harsh mechanical precision. Figures spilled out, dozens, fast and merciless. Nova's pulse slammed against her ribs. The trap had snapped shut. Without hesitation, she bolted for the narrow stairwell, the sound of heavy boots pounding a terrifying chorus behind her. The stairwell was a choking shaft of damp air and rot. Walls slick with mold pressed in, the feeble glow of a flickering bulb casting broken shadows that danced like ghosts. Nova's lungs burned as she scrambled up the narrow steps, heart hammering an erratic tattoo against her ribs. The door at the top groaned in protest as she shoved it open, spilling her into the biting chill of the night air. The city stretched beneath her like a vast, fractured sea, an endless sprawl of distant lights and dark corners. Behind her, voices erupted, sharp, furious, closing fast. She sprinted along the rooftop, leaping over rusty vents and cracked tiles, each footfall pounding a desperate rhythm. Every muscle screamed for relief, but she couldn't stop, not now. Her mind spun with every terrifying possibility. What if the key wasn't enough? What if the keeper was a myth? What if Elias was already lost forever? Ahead, a towering pile of rusted metal crates loomed, blocking her path like a steel wall. Nova didn't hesitate. She vaulted over, rolling as she hit the ground. A crack ripped through the air, a gunshot. Bullets tore past, shattering a pipe that erupted in hissing steam, filling the alley with a ghostly mist. Nova dove into the shadows, pressing herself against the damp brick, every nerve screaming. She spotted a rusted bicycle chained to a nearby post. Without a second thought, she yanked it free and threw herself onto the seat, pedaling hard into the labyrinth of backstreets. The roar of the SUV tore after her, tires kicking gravel like thunder. Nova zigzagged through narrow alleys, the bitter taste of fear sharp on her tongue. The triangle on the receiver pulsed faintly, syncing with the frantic beat of her heart. She wasn't running just to save herself. She was running to save everything Elias had believed in. Up ahead, the alley ended abruptly, a rusted iron fence topped with jagged barbed wire. No time to think. Nova slammed the bike into the gate, metal screaming a high-pitched protest. She threw the bike aside, sprinting toward a pile of wooden pallets stacked precariously nearby. Grabbing a loose plank, she hefted it like a weapon, knuckles white. Footsteps thundered closer. A shadow lunged. Nova swung hard, crack. A grunt echoed. She didn't wait to see more. Leaping over the pallets, she disappeared into the night. Her lungs burned, muscles trembled, but she pushed on, refusing to yield. The key was safe in her grasp. The countdown was relentless. And the danger was far from over.
Chapter 8, His Voice and His Face.
Nova slammed the front door so hard the frame shuddered. Nova? Her mother's voice rang out from the kitchen, sharp with panic. What happened? She rounded the corner in her robe, bare feet on the hardwood. Her eyes widened when she saw Nova's face, flushed, streaked with dirt, blood on her sleeve, arms wrapped around something heavy. Oh my God, her mother gasped. Nova, what happened? Are you hurt? Nova shook her head fast. It's not mine, she said quickly. The blood, it's not mine. I'm fine. She didn't wait for a reply. I need to go upstairs. Wait. Nova, what's going on? Talk to me, I will, she promised, already moving. I just need the attic. Please. She didn't wait for an answer. The stairs blurred beneath her feet. She reached the attic, shoved the door open, and dropped the receiver case onto Elias's old workbench with a dull, metal thud. The noise felt too loud in the quiet room. She sat heavily on the stool, her chest heaving. Every part of her ached, from running, from fear, from not knowing. Then it happened. The triangle on the tuner lit up. Dim at first. Then brighter. A soft pulse. Then a voice, Nova. She froze. Not a recording. Live. She stood slowly. Elias? I hope you're alone. She could barely speak. Oh my God. It's really you. Elias, are you okay? Where are you? What's happening? Please, just tell me, are you safe? A pause. His voice didn't shift. No warmth. Just calm. You didn't reach the keeper. I couldn't, she said, voice cracking. Someone set me up. A Tesla pulled in. Tactical team. I ran. I didn't know what else to do. You did the right thing. Then tell me what's going on, she begged. What is this key? What does it do? Why does it feel like it's alive? He didn't answer that. Instead, deliver it to someone else. New location. Warehouse Block 9A. South Side. After dark. No phone. Ask for cell. Nova blinked. Cell? Who is she? She can be trusted. Elias, please. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I need more than names and addresses. You're talking to me like I'm one of your agents. I'm not. I'm your sister. Silence. Tell me about Milo. The air went still. I saw his countdown. You remember that? His phone? His dad's watch was sinking. I saw it, I felt it. He's part of this. Still nothing. She stepped closer. Elias. Is he safe? The triangle blinked once. Stay focused. Deliver the key. That's all that matters now. Then the signal dropped. She stood in the attic's quiet hum, heart breaking open. Elias was alive, but different. Sharp. Detached. Like someone had taken pieces out of him and rearranged the rest. And Milo, still a question mark. She turned toward the window, needing air, needing to see anything normal. Then she saw it. Across the street, a light. Faint and blue. Milo's upstairs bedroom. Nova's pulse surged. She grabbed her phone. Are you okay? I see your light. Milo, just say something. Then the text thread vanished. A message blinked up. This number is no longer available. Her heart dropped like a stone. She ran. Down the stairs. Out the front door. Across the street, her mother's voice calling behind her, already fading. She climbed Milo's porch steps and pounded on the door. Milo. Nothing. Milo, it's me. Open up. Then, from behind the door, go away. His voice. Quiet. Worn down. Milo, please. I just talked to Elias. I've been trying to find you. I didn't know what happened. I thought, just let me see you. I can't. She hit the door again. I'm not leaving. There was movement. Then the door opened a crack. Nova's breath hitched. Milo looked like he'd been dropped from a moving car. One eye swollen shut. Dried blood under his nose. His lips split. His shirt torn. His hands trembled at his sides. Milo. He said nothing. I thought you were gone, she whispered. I'm not. What happened to you? No answer. Was it the people from the Tesla? He didn't shake his head. He didn't nod. He just stared. She took a step closer. He flinched. Milo, we can fix this. Elias gave me a name, someone who can help us. He looked past her. Eyes glassy. Not now. Milo, I need to sleep. You need a doctor. I need to sleep, Nova. Her throat closed. Milo. We'll talk in the morning. Then, gently, he pushed the door closed. Click. She stood on the porch, the cold settling into her bones. His upstairs light stayed on. She stood there for a long time. Then turned, crossed the street, and disappeared into the dark. She didn't look back. She couldn't.
Chapter 9, Warehouse 9A.
The warehouse district felt like it had been drained of time. Nova moved through the dark with her hood up, hands jammed deep into her coat pockets, the weight of the case heavy against her side. The city around her was mostly silent now, just the distant hum of freeway traffic and the occasional hiss of wind cutting through chain link. Everything smelled like rust, old oil, and spent electricity. She passed a row of industrial units. Most were sealed or tagged in red paint. Fences bent. Doors boarded. Broken lights buzzed overhead like dying insects. 9C. 9B. She stopped at 9A. The warehouse loomed, tall, wide, skeletal. Corrugated siding, most of it dull with rain streaks. A rust-stained loading dock stretched along the side. One of the overhead doors had been half crushed, frozen halfway open like a metal yawn. There were no signs. No logos. No signs of life. Except one. A small bulb above a side entrance glowed sick yellow. It flickered like it was dying in slow motion. Nova stared at it. The case in her hand pulsed gently, the triangle glowing under the latch like a heartbeat. She hesitated, then knocked once on the door. No answer. She knocked again. Louder. Her breath fogged in the cold air. Still nothing. She stepped back, about to try the door herself, when she heard a mechanical clunk from the other side. The door opened 3 inches, caught on a chain. A woman's voice came through the gap. You alone? Nova nodded. Yes. Back up. Let me see. Nova stepped into the light, lifted her chin slightly, but kept her hands where they could be seen. The door closed. Metal scraped. A pause. Then it opened fully. The woman stood there like she'd been waiting for hours. She was tall, maybe late 30s, dressed in charcoal cargo gear and worn combat boots. Her jacket was layered and patch-seamed. A heavy-looking belt rested low on her hips, half tools, half compartments. She wore one black glove, and on her ungloved hand, a dull silver ring glinted on her thumb, not decorative, not tech. Just functional. Her eyes were dark, fast, and not warm. Nova held her ground. The woman stepped aside without a word. Nova entered. The door clanged shut behind her, followed by 3 quick locks being thrown. The interior was freezing. A wide, open floor under a skeleton of steel beams. Dust drifted in the air. A line of old fluorescent tubes buzzed along the ceiling, but only 2 were lit. At the far end, a steel workbench sat under a spotlight bulb. Put the case on the table, the woman said. Nova walked to it and set the receiver down with both hands. She didn't speak. Her mouth was dry. The woman walked over slowly, eyes still on Nova, then on the case. You're Elias's sister, she said. It wasn't a question. Nova blinked. You knew him? He said you'd come. She crouched slightly and unlatched the case. It clicked. The lid opened. The tuner's triangle glowed faint red. A low pulse blinked across its screen, faint but steady. You didn't drop it, she murmured. Good. I almost did, Nova said. A Tesla full of tack gear showed up. I ran. The woman's face didn't change. Not the first time that's happened, she said. Then she looked up. You talked to Elias directly? Nova nodded. Last night. Was he clear? No, Nova said honestly. He was cold. Detached. Like someone trying not to sound human. The woman's eyes searched her for a moment. My name's Sal, she said. You weren't followed? I don't think so. You'd know if you were. They don't do subtle. Nova exhaled through her nose. I need to know what this is, she said. I've been carrying it across rooftops and alleys. I've been chased, lied to, cut off. I've been given names and places but no truth. What's in that case? Sel stood slowly. We don't talk topside, she said. Why not? Because we're being watched. Nova's stomach tensed. Sel moved quickly to the back wall and flipped a panel open. A recessed switch glowed blue. She flipped it. A low, hydraulic hiss filled the room. Metal groaned. A narrow slab of floor near the workbench slid sideways, revealing a recessed stairwell and a great-lined passage. Before Nova could speak, a sharp crack echoed from outside. Glass shattered. A window near the ceiling burst inward, raining shards across the concrete. Cell was already moving. Get down. Nova ducked behind the workbench as a metal dart embedded in the wall where her head had been a second earlier, silent, narrow, needle-pointed. Not a bullet. A tracker? Cell unholstered a compact weapon from her belt, aimed it toward the breach, and fired once. The sound was sharp but low, a muffled thud. A second window shattered outward. Footsteps echoed on the roof above. Cell didn't look back. 2 up top. Maybe 3, she said. They're not here to talk. Nova peeked up. Same guys as before? Different build. Faster response. Probably Echo Trace runners. You were followed after all? I didn't see anyone. They saw you. Another dart thudded into a steel beam above their heads. Cell grabbed the receiver case off the table and shoved it into Nova's hands. Underground. Now. Nova hesitated. Wait, she shifted the case under one arm and reached into her coat pocket. Her fingers closed around the key, cold, sharp-edged, heavier than it should have been. She didn't move. Cell noticed. Nova looked down at the key. What is this, really? Cell's eyes flicked to the stairwell. We don't have time. I need to know, Nova said, voice tighter now. Because it doesn't feel like a tool. It feels like she swallowed. Like it's alive. Like it wants to go somewhere. Cell didn't answer. Nova's grip tightened. Can I trust you with it? That stopped Cell. She didn't blink. Just held Nova's gaze, calm and unreadable. If I wanted to take it, I would have already, she said. You made it this far because you listened to Elias. Do it again. Nova's stomach nodded. Everything in her screamed not to let it go. Not yet. Not now. But she forced her fingers open, slow and reluctant, and held it out. Cell took the key, no ceremony, no comment, and slipped it into a black side pouch on her belt. You'll get it back, she said, almost gently. If you still want it. Another dart thudded into the beam above them. Cell turned sharply. Go. Nova dropped into the stairwell, boots hitting metal rungs. Cell followed, hitting the switch behind her. The slab above began to slide shut. Just before it sealed, Nova caught one last glimpse of the warehouse. A black-clad figure had made it halfway through the side entrance, face hidden behind a visor, one hand raised, a weapon glowing with a faint green pulse. Nova hesitated. What about them? I'll close the door behind us. You're going to lock them in here with us? No. I'm going to lock them out. Cell fired again, this time upward toward the shadows at the roof's edge. There was a shout, followed by a clatter of boots. A shape slid down the side of the wall. Cell turned, grabbed Nova's wrist, and yanked her toward the opening in the floor. Go. Nova dropped into the stairwell, boots hitting metal rungs. Cell followed, hitting the switch behind her. The slab above began to slide shut. Just before it sealed, Nova caught one last glimpse of the warehouse. A black-clad figure had made it halfway through the side entrance, face hidden behind a visor, one hand raised, a weapon glowing with a faint green pulse. Then the slab sealed. Darkness swallowed them whole. Below. The metal stairwell groaned beneath their steps. Nova followed Cell downward, the receiver case clutched tightly to her chest. The walls closed in the deeper they went, rust-streaked steel and sweat-stained concrete. The scent of oil and old dust clung to her throat. At the bottom, Cell punched in a 4-digit code. The lock gave a mechanical thunk. The door swung open into a long, low bunker. Reinforced steel walls. No windows. No other exits. One table. 2 narrow cots. A battered rig of monitors and cables blinked sleepily on the far side. A camping stove glowed faintly orange near the back, beside a red thermos and 2 dented mugs. Cell flicked on a wall switch. The overhead light buzzed to life, warm, amber, just enough to see by. "We're safe down here," she said. Nova hesitated on the threshold. The hatch sealed shut behind her with a clang. She jumped. "Do you live down here?" she asked. "I live where I won't be followed. That's rarer than you'd think." Cell set the case on the table, careful, deliberate. Nova didn't move. "Before you open it," Nova said, her voice low, "I want to know something." Cell didn't turn. "Ask." "Elias. What happened to him?" "I've spoken to him twice now. But it's like he's wearing a version of himself. He ignored me when I asked about Milo. He talks in assignments. He barely sounds human." Cell opened the case slowly. The triangle on the tuner lit red again, pulsing steady, urgent. "He's been close to the signal too long," Cell said. "It interferes. With instinct. With empathy. So he's not really him anymore? He's still Elias. But maybe not in ways that matter to you." Nova sat, the cot's cold frame pressing against her legs. She didn't look away from the case. "This thing isn't just a key, is it?" "No. It's a beacon." "To what?" Cell reached beneath the table and retrieved a thin sheet of dark acetate. She unfolded it and slid it over the map beneath. The receiver's pulse backlit the lines until they glowed, concentric rings, spiraling paths, too geometric to be organic, too chaotic to be digital. They moved, just slightly, with each flash of red. "This isn't a map," Nova whispered. "It is. Just not of terrain." Nova stared. "Where was this recorded?" "3 places. Finland. Northwest Canada. And here, under this city." Nova sat back. Her throat was dry. "You're saying the pulse is coming from here?" "No. I'm saying there's something here that's responding." Cell turned and opened a locker. She pulled out a small black case, flipped it open. Inside, 2 compact wristbands, matte black, thick with reinforced seals. "Put this on." "What is it?" "Pulse scrubber. May filter future traces. May not." Nova hesitated, then strapped it on. It vibrated faintly, like a second heartbeat. "Why me?" she asked. "Why Milo? Why Elias? You all react to the signal. That's rare. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes it kills people. Sometimes it burns out the devices. Sometimes it tags the right ones." Nova looked at the acetate. "And what happens when it tags you?" Before Cell could answer, a faint tremor ran through the floor. Not big. Not dramatic. Just enough for the desk lamp to shiver. Cell went still. "That was local," Nova said. Cell didn't respond. She picked up a sensor wand from the desk. Its readout began to spike, silent, sharp, rising. The triangle on the tuner turned white. Above, the warehouse was still. Dust hung in the flashlight beams like powdered ash. "No bodies. No trace," one of the operatives said. His voice barely rose above the hum of the drone. The lead swept his gaze across the far wall. "Warm hatch. They sealed it just minutes ago." Another operative crouched near a power panel. "Found something." He held up a photograph. Blurry. Cropped. Nova, on a rooftop. The timestamp had been burned off. On the back, one word in block lettering: proximity. The lead agent tucked it into his vest. Then the floor shifted. Only slightly. The drone chirped. The sensor tech froze. Was that seismic? No, the commander said. That came from below. Below, Final Cell stood beside the desk, watching the beacon pulse white. She didn't move. That's new, she muttered. Nova looked up. What is that frequency? We've only seen it once before. Right before the Cairn Point relay overloaded. Nova swallowed. And then what happened? Cell met her eyes. The lights in the sky started moving. Nova's stomach twisted. We need to go, Cell said. Now. Nova nodded, clutching the case. And above them, steel began to groan.
Chapter 10, New Orders.
Nova slipped away from Cell just after they emerged near the city's edge, but it was an instant. It took planning. Timing. Nerves. They surfaced through a drainage tunnel behind an abandoned substation, its rusted gates yawning open into a patch of scrubby weeds and half-collapsed fencing. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the sky was beginning to bruise with light. Gray-blue and fragile. Cell moved first, scanning the skyline through a handheld lens, sweeping the rooftops and corners in tight, practiced arcs. Her weapon stayed holstered, but her fingers never drifted far from it. Nova kept one pace behind her. She could feel the receiver in her pack humming again, low, dormant, but not asleep. The triangle had stayed dark since the burst in the bunker. That silence should have been a relief. It wasn't. "You good?" Cell asked, not looking back. Nova nodded. "Yeah. You need rest. We'll move again at nightfall." That sealed it. Cell expected her to stay close. Follow. Obey. Like she was part of the plan. Nova waited until they reached the edge of a graffiti-choked alley that emptied out onto a quiet transit road. Cell slowed at the corner, watching the street with hawk eyes. The moment her gaze flicked away, Nova moved. One silent step. Then another. She slipped behind a collapsed fence, crouched low, and slid down the crumbling embankment that ran parallel to the street, an old runoff path overgrown with weeds and trash. She didn't breathe until she was out of sight. Then she ran. Not a sprint. Not loud. Just fast enough to make distance before Cell noticed. A part of her expected to hear footsteps behind her. A voice. A warning shot. But the only sound was the wind and the distant rattle of loose metal. By the time she reached the next block, Nova ducked into a narrow space between a junked van and a boarded-up barbershop. She checked the street behind her. No movement. No shadow trailing. Only then did she allow herself to slow down, heart pounding, limbs shaky with adrenaline and doubt. Maybe Cell would understand. Maybe she wouldn't. But Nova had learned something important underground: she wasn't a follower. And she wasn't going to wait for someone else to decide what the key meant, or what she was meant to be. So she kept walking. Alone. The early morning was cold and quiet, and she took the long way home, sticking to side streets and empty alleys. Her feet ached, but the thought of Milo waiting pulled her forward. She stumbled through her front door just as the first pale fingers of dawn stretched across the sky. Her legs trembled beneath her weight, every step heavy with exhaustion and adrenaline. The house was quiet, still cloaked in the hush of early morning. Her mother stirred in the kitchen, eyes wide with concern as she saw Nova's dirt-streaked face and the way she carried herself, too worn, too guarded. But Nova said nothing, brushing past without a word. Not yet. Crossing the street again, her breath plumed in the cool air, Nova hesitated only a moment before knocking softly on Milo's door. This time, when he opened, he looked better. The dried blood was gone. The bruises still shadowed his face, but he'd showered, changed into clean clothes, and even his voice sounded more like him. "You're back," Milo said quietly, his voice rough but steady. Nova met his gaze. "I needed to show you something." They settled in his cramped room, curtains drawn tight against the awakening world. Nova carefully pulled the case from her backpack and set it on his cluttered desk. Milo stared at it as if it might open on its own. Before either spoke again, Nova's phone buzzed sharply. She glanced down, heart tightening. Elias, new assignment. Urgent. Meet at 1700 hours. Industrial District. Locate the black van parked near Dock 14. Check for any electronic devices emitting unusual power signatures. Retrieve any data drives or physical components found. Avoid direct confrontation, record all findings. Nova's eyes flicked up to Milo. He studied the message silently before nodding. "I'll come with you," he said. She blinked, searching his face for hesitation. Are you sure? I've had enough sleep, Milo replied. And I think it's time you stop doing this alone. Nova swallowed and didn't argue. As they began to pack, Nova hesitated, then asked, "What does your father say about all this?" Milo shrugged, a faint smirk breaking through. "He's away for 3 days on a business trip. I'll just tell him some school bully took my lunch or something." Nova smiled faintly, grateful for the brief normalcy. Then Milo's expression turned serious again. "There's something I need to tell you." Nova paused, waiting. "When I left school that day," Milo said, "they took me. Pulled me into a van, hooded me so I couldn't see a thing." His fingers tightened around the edge of the desk. "They asked questions. Checked my phone. Then, before destroying it, they looked confused, like they had the wrong guy." Nova's breath caught. I thought they'd keep me, or worse. But they just let me go." He met her eyes, bruised but steady. "I don't know why they let me go. Maybe they were wrong. Maybe they're watching anyway." Nova reached out, resting a hand on his arm. "We're in this together now." Milo nodded, a faint spark of hope lighting his gaze. They moved quickly, packing only what they needed, the case, a few essentials, and determination. Outside, the city stirred, the first hum of daily life beginning beneath the fading stars. Together, they slipped into the morning haze, heading toward whatever waited for them next.
Chapter 11, Dock 14.
The industrial district sprawled beneath a leaden sky, a tangled maze of rusted cranes, weathered shipping containers, and cracked concrete slabs. The sharp tang of salt and diesel hung heavy in the cold air, carried on a restless wind that rattled loose metal and stirred forgotten debris. Nova and Milo moved like ghosts, feet muffled on gravel and scattered wood fragments. Every step was cautious, every breath measured. Twilight bled into dusk, stretching long shadows across the docks. "Dock 14 should be just ahead," Milo whispered, eyes scanning the line of trucks and vans parked near the harbor. Behind a leaning stack of rusted containers, a black van sat humming softly, its dark windows swallowing the last of the daylight. The vehicle's slow vibration thrummed through Nova's boots, unnatural, insistent. Nova produced a compact scanner from her jacket, its screen flickering as it hunted for hidden signals. The device chirped softly near the van's rear hatch. "Got something," she murmured, keeping her voice low. Milo crouched beside her, eyes darting nervously. "They're guarding it." Across the yard, 2 men in tactical gear patrolled the perimeter, their movements tight and alert. A third man stood by a mobile console, cable snaking to the van. Nova pressed a finger against Milo's arm. "We can't get caught." They edged deeper into shadow, weaving between containers and rusted barrels, muscles taut with tension. Milo's heart thudded as he spotted a small hatch concealed behind grime near the van's rear bumper. The hum grew louder there, a concealed emitter or power source. Nova approached carefully, mindful of scattered glass and broken boards. She aimed her scanner at the hatch, detecting a faint shimmer, an active security field. Suddenly, a sharp voice shattered the silence. "Hey! What are you two doing?" A flashlight beam stabbed through the gloom, sweeping toward them. Shouts rose behind it as more figures hurried forward. Milo grabbed Nova's wrist. "Run!" They exploded into motion, feet pounding gravel and loose debris. Behind them, boots thundered in relentless pursuit. Nova's pulse scrubber thrummed faintly on her wrist but crackled with interference. The emitter's growing whine distorted her readings. Ahead, a narrow gap between stacked containers beckoned. They slipped through just as their pursuers reached their previous position. Nova risked a glance back. The van's emitter pulsed violently now, the hum warping into a high-pitched wail that stabbed at her nerves. "We have to get out," she gasped. Milo nodded, pulling her toward the relative safety of a nearby warehouse. Inside, shadows pooled thick and still. Nova pressed against the cold steel wall, heart hammering. She lifted the scanner, sweeping the spot where the van had been. Beneath the hatch, blinking LEDs revealed a small data drive, no bigger than a pack of cards, tangled in wires and flickering erratically. "That's what we came for," Nova whispered. Milo's eyes locked on hers, fierce and wary. "But they'll come after us," he said. Nova swallowed, clutching the drive like a lifeline. "We don't have a choice." Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the rusted siding like dry bones. The hunt was far from over.
Flashback. It was the last good day she could remember. The sky had been soft that afternoon, clouds smeared across pale blue, like paint on old canvas. Nova still remembered the feel of Elias's hand tugging hers, half dragging her up the stone steps toward the arched glass doors of the planetarium. She had whined about the heat, about the boring displays, but he'd ignored her like he always did when he was excited. And their dad, coat flapping in the breeze, sunglasses slipping down his nose, just laughed and followed. Inside, it was all dust motes and shadows. The building was quiet, mostly empty. Budget cuts had gutted the museum's charm, left the orrery half-broken and the gift shop boarded up. But the dome still worked. The stars still spun. They'd taken 3 seats in the back row of the projection room, Elias bouncing on his heels, Nova chewing a strand of her hair. Their dad leaned forward, elbows on knees, smiling at the empty sky above. Then the lights dimmed, and everything changed. Stars bloomed into view across the dome, sharp and infinite. A voice, soft, low, impossibly kind, spoke of light years and constellations, of fire trapped in time. Nova leaned back, mouth half open, watching Orion rise and drift across the fake horizon. Elias whispered names to himself. Not the official ones, the ones from the guidebook, but the names he made up just for fun. There's Captain Jacket Pockets. That one looks like a shrimp. See that? Triangle formation? That's the cord. Their dad grinned. The cord, huh? It's 3 stars, Elias said. Perfect angle, like a signal waiting to be played. Nova had no idea what he meant, but something about the way he said it stuck with her. Like he'd felt a rhythm in the dark that no one else could hear. After the show, they stood under the giant hanging model of Saturn. Their dad took a photo of them, Nova squinting, Elias throwing up 2 fingers in mock salute. He ruffled Nova's hair, then Elias's, then pulled them both close. "You two," he said, voice low, "are going to change everything someday. I can feel it." She remembered laughing. Elias had said something sarcastic, probably about inventing anti-gravity ice cream, but she didn't hear it. She just remembered the weight of their dad's arm, the smell of his coat, the impossible quiet of that old building. Later that night, she'd stared at her ceiling, trying to find the cord in the pattern of glow-in-the-dark stars above her bed. She never found it. But sometimes, when the signal pulses in her ears or Thesky seems too close to breathe, she still hears Elias whisper, 3 stars. Perfect angle, like a signal waiting to be played. Chapter 12. The Noise Below.
The planetarium was closed. Had been for years. A temporary shutdown after budget cuts and some quiet incident no one bothered to explain. But Nova still remembered the side gate that never latched right, and the loading bay door that stuck if you didn't yank it just so. She did. It opened. Inside, the air was stale and dry, steeped in cold dust and old paint. Broken dioramas hunched in silence. The planets no longer spun. The sun was missing half its paint. Somewhere above them, moonlight filtered through a fractured skylight and caught the edge of a shattered telescope lens. Milo dropped his pack with a grunt and slumped against the wall. 10 out of 10, he muttered. No TAC teams. No drones. No triangles blinking at us from hell. He slid down onto the floor. You sure no one knows about this place? Nova nodded. It's been dead since I was 12. Nobody came here even when it was open. They made their way through the dark exhibits, faded space suits behind cracked glass, constellations peeling from the walls. The main projection dome loomed ahead like the hollow skull of some extinct god. Quiet. Waiting. They settled in the small control room behind the dome, surrounded by obsolete wiring and rust-streaked monitors. The server rack still hummed faintly, stubbornly alive. Nova slid the data drive into an open port. One of the screens blinked to life, ghostly pale. She didn't hit play. Not yet. Milo sat cross-legged on the floor, turning his wristband slowly. After a while, he asked, You ever come here before? Nova didn't answer right away. Her eyes drifted up toward the projection dome overhead, dust-coated stars suspended in stillness. Yeah, she said finally. My dad used to bring us. Elias too. Before everything cracked. She smiled faintly. Elias would rename the constellations to annoy my dad. Orion became guy with too many pockets. He pretended to hate it, but I think he liked it more than he let on. Milo leaned his head against the wall, eyes half closed. Sounds like a good day. It was. Her voice grew softer. Feels like a different life. Like I borrowed someone else's memory. Milo didn't speak for a long moment. Then, do you miss them? She nodded. Every day. Just. Not always the same version. Later, stretched out on a cracked leather bench beneath the dome, they watched dust twirl in slow spirals above them, like the ghosts of old stars. You know, Milo murmured, you never really lost it. Not once. Even when Elias started talking to you through your headphones. Even when the countdown began. You just kept going. Nova didn't look at him. Doesn't mean I wasn't scared. I am. Still. He rubbed the heel of his hand over one eye. Part of me keeps waiting to wake up in the nurse's office with a mild concussion and a lecture about too much screen time. Nova exhaled a half laugh. If you wake up, tell me. I want out too. She sat up and faced the glowing monitor. The screen now showed a simple interface. One folder, Cairn_core. One audio file. No metadata. No timestamp. She hovered over it. Pressed play. A moment of silence. Then Elias's voice, ragged, distorted, but undeniably his. They didn't listen. They patched things, but they never fixed them. I told them the noise would spread. That it wasn't random. They laughed. So I took the system. I rerouted its core. I gave it form. I gave it her. The file cut off. Just stopped. Nova's throat tightened. What the hell does that mean? Milo whispered. I think. She started. Then stopped. I think it means I'm part of this. I found this where Elias said it would be. Buried under a concrete pylon, like someone hid it decades ago. But it's not a normal key. Not to a door. Not even to a machine. Cell said it's a beacon. That it reacts. But she never explained what it's supposed to trigger. Only that it matters. That I matter. Milo stared. So you've been carrying it this whole time? Without knowing what it opens? She looked at him. I don't think it opens anything. He blinked. Then what does it do? I think. It calls something. But before Milo could respond, the projector overhead buzzed to life. They both jumped. Light flickered across the dome, not stars, not galaxies. Symbols. Spirals and sharp lines. 3 interlocking triangles that pulsed like a heartbeat. A voice crackled through the speaker system, not the museum PA. Third node confirmed. Echo alignment active. Time remaining, 0:46 and 8 seconds. Milo's face went pale. That's your countdown, isn't it? Nova stood slowly, eyes locked on the dome. It's not counting down to a broadcast, she whispered. It's counting down to me. Somewhere below, the floor vibrated. A faint hum filled the bones of the old building. And for the first time, the stars blinked back.
Chapter 13, Ghost Protocol.
The planetarium was colder now. Or maybe it just felt that way. Milo hunched near the monitor, chewing a thumbnail, while Nova stared at the data interface still glowing on screen. The single file they'd played, Karen._core, now sat dormant. But there was something else. A flicker at the edge of the UI. An unlabeled folder that hadn't been there before. Did you see that? Nova asked. Milo leaned closer. Yeah. That just blinked in. She clicked it. Inside, 6 files. Most were gibberish, strings of alphanumerics and extensions she didn't recognize. But one folder stood out. /relay_/. She opened it. A loading bar appeared, stalled, then flickered to life. Symbols scrolled across the screen, not code, not text. Waveforms. Pulses. One of them matched the rhythm still thudding in her receiver. The triangle blinked as if in acknowledgement. I think this is the same signal, Nova said. But recorded. Echoed. Milo frowned. Echoed from where? Nova tapped a side window labeled Node Confirm Log. A line blinked into view, Node 3 confirmed, human anchor verified, then another, third code alignment in progress. Estimated uplink, 0:43 and 12 seconds. Milo sat up straighter. Wait. It's counting down again. Nova nodded. Her pulse quickened. It's not just a timer. It's syncing. Adjusting every time we interact. She backed out of the folder. Another appeared. /ghost_protocol/ Milo looked at her. That sounds bad. She clicked anyway. A voice emerged, low, synthesized, stitched together from old samples of Elias's tone. Not a full AI. Just enough to talk. Uplink incomplete. Human anchor present. Awaiting trigger condition. Third code initialized. Warning, interference will result in cascade fault. Stand by for anchor calibration. Nova recoiled slightly. It's using my location. Not just your location, Milo said. You're the calibration. Nova swallowed hard. Then I'm not just part of it. I'm the key. She didn't say it out loud, but something in the voice, that hollow mimicry of Elias, made her chest tighten. He had known. He'd left this for her. But why like this? She scrolled deeper. A new file appeared, /core_access/ext run/ She clicked. Instead of loading, the screen flared red. Restricted access, level 7 security cryptologic engaged authorization token required. The screen buzzed sharply. A prompt blinked, insert key. Milo blinked. Maybe there's a code on that key. Or inside it? Nova reached for her pocket. Then froze. I don't have it. What? I gave it to Sal. Her voice was flat with sudden realization. Back when we first met her. She said she needed time to study it. I never got it back. Milo stared at the blinking prompt. Well, the system sure as hell thinks you still have it. For a moment, neither of them moved. Nova's mind reeled. She'd been so focused on the drive, on the signal, that she'd forgotten the physical key entirely. And now it was out of reach. The projector dome flickered again. Not light this time, heat. A faint warmth radiated from the server rack. Her receiver burned red in her hand, triangle matching the pattern overhead. Tracer engagement at 19%. Suppression threshold breached. Ecosystems compromised. Ghost protocol will fail without sequence relay. Milo stepped back instinctively. That sounds very end of the world. What does that mean? He added, his voice shaky. Nova's jaw was tight. It means the system thought I wouldn't find this. That I wasn't ready. She thought of her father's voice, the real one. Teaching her how to solder in the garage. Holding her wrist when she first panicked during a late-night hack. He trusted her more than anyone. But even he hadn't told her everything. Ready for what? Milo asked again. She yanked the drive. The screen went black instantly. The warmth vanished. The projector powered down with a soft hiss. Silence. Milo exhaled shakily. So, we just kicked a hornet's nest made of math. Nova stood, staring at the now dead interface. No. We are the nest. She shoved the drive and her receiver back into her pack. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. Come on. We need to move. Where? She looked toward the exit. To someone who still knows what the third code means. And behind them, for just a second, the stars blinked back on. Then vanished.
Chapter 14. The SUV Standoff.
The Tesla appeared without headlights. It rolled silently through the fog, dark windows reflecting only the pale sheen of the street lamps. Then it stopped, too suddenly, too close to the planetarium's outer fence. Inside his parked SUV, Shaw tensed. His thermal overlay flared. 4 figures. 2 in the front. 2 in the back. All armed. He leaned forward, eyes narrowing. The tablet in his lap buzzed once, interference. The glyph twisted, reset, and went black. They're here. He slammed his fist once against the armrest and barked, weapons up. Move now. The agents in the back seat jumped to action. Doors opened in silence. Black-clad operatives slid out and fanned along the curb, rifles low but ready. No lights. No words. Shaw stepped out last, coil gun in hand, scanning. The Tesla's driver door opened. A man stepped out, tall, gloved, face obscured by polarized glasses. Not government. Not civilian. Trained. The passenger followed. Another male, younger. He carried something long in a shoulder sling. Shaw raised his voice, measured but commanding. You're trespassing on federal observation grounds. Identify yourselves. No reply. Instead, the back doors opened. 2 more stepped out. One woman, lean, hair cropped close. The other, impossibly pale, like someone who hadn't seen the sun in weeks. No weapons drawn yet. Shaw didn't wait. He turned to his second. Form line. Protect the building. No one gets past us. He glanced toward the planetarium dome. Nova and Milo were already moving, he could see them through the warped glass near the side exit. Too slow. They had no idea. He lifted his radio. Target is still inside. They're not alone. From the Tesla, the tall man stepped forward. You don't understand what you're dealing with, he said calmly. We're not here for you. Shaw aimed. I wasn't asking. The woman behind the man reached into her coat. Guns up, Shaw snapped. Lasers found their marks. Every silhouette lit with infrared red. Someone's finger tensed. Then, the Tesla's engine roared to life again. Behind it, a secondary hum. Not electric. Resonant. Shaw's eyes widened. They've got tech. Inside the planetarium, Nova turned to Milo. Did you hear that? He froze. We need to run. Too late. The street erupted. The Tesla's trunk slid open with a hiss, and a 5th figure emerged, hooded, fast, and moving with a strange twitch to their limbs. Their hands sparked with bluish light, like static charging into shape. A pulse hit Shaw's SUV, rippled through its electronics. One of his agents cursed and smacked the side of his helmet. EMP? Shaw shouted. Localized. Scrambled optics, someone responded, crouching behind the wheel well. The pale woman from the Tesla lifted one hand. No weapon, just a silver node embedded in her palm. Her lips moved, whispering to no one. Shaw didn't wait. He fired. The coil gun discharged with a muted thump, the slug streaking across the divide. And stopping midair. Hanging. Frozen. The air rippled. Time twisted. Then the slug dropped to the pavement. "What the hell?" someone whispered. Another agent opened fire. Rounds streaked across the space and fizzled in midair, bent off course as if repelled by invisible magnetics. Sparks exploded across nearby fencing. Inside the planetarium, Milo ducked as glass rattled in the dome. "We're leaving. Now." Nova grabbed his sleeve. They burst through the side exit and skidded onto the sidewalk, just in time to see the two groups facing off. Shaw on one side. The Tesla crew on the other. Between them, nothing but mist and tension. "Nova," the tall man called out without turning. His voice cut through the air like a blade. "Come with us. Now." She froze. Milo hissed, "Do you know them?" She shook her head, eyes wide. "No. But they know me." Behind her, Shaw shouted, "Run. Get back." Too late again. The pavement beneath them trembled. A flash. A soundless surge of force, like thunder without air. One of Shaw's agents flew backward, skidding across the road and colliding with a parked sedan. Another sprinted forward, attempting to flank, but the pale woman's node lit with a pulse, and the agent collapsed mid-stride, clutching his chest. The Tesla crew advanced. Shaw took cover behind his SUV, shouting orders. His coil gun barked again, once, twice, but each slug vanished mid-trajectory, swallowed into distortion. Another agent launched a drone overhead. It rose 6 feet before freezing in place, twitching, then crashing like a shot bird. "Fall back. Keep them away from the dome." Shaw shouted. Nova and Milo bolted the opposite way, away from both sides, toward the alley behind the museum. Boots pounded behind them. A ricochet sparked near Nova's shoulder, flaring against the stone. She stumbled. Milo pulled her upright. "Move." Behind them, reality bent. Gravity shifted in a strange wave. The fifth figure from the Tesla dropped from a rooftop now, pursuing with inhuman speed. And the chase began.
Chapter 15. The Alley Gauntlet.
Chapter 15, The Alley Gauntlet. Nova's lungs burned as she sprinted down the narrow back alley, Milo close behind. Their shoes slapped the wet pavement, dodging trash bins, broken glass, and flickering neon signs overhead. The alley twisted, a corridor of shadow and ruin. Behind them, the fifth figure chased without a sound, gliding instead of running, too fast, too fluid. "Left!" Milo shouted, yanking Nova toward a stairwell. They slammed into a rusted metal gate. Locked. Nova looked up, saw the fire escape ladder. She jumped. Fingers caught. Pulled. Scraped. Milo scrambled up after her. Below, the alley shimmered with strange static. Lights worked. The shadows bent in the wrong direction, as if something were rewriting the space behind them. They reached the roof. Breathless. Exposed. And there he was. The pale man from the Tesla stood at the opposite edge, waiting. Not out of breath. Just watching. Poised, like a chess piece moved early. Nova froze. Milo raised his fists. "What do you want?" The man didn't answer. Instead, he lifted a small device and tapped it once. A pulse surged. Nova's jacket vibrated. Her phone flickered, and then something stranger, her screen bloomed with a triangle pattern again. She hadn't seen that since the attic. Since the first pulse. Her breath caught. Why is it reacting? I don't even have the key. The pale man tilted his head. As if he knew something she didn't. As if he expected this. Below them, Shaw's SUV screeched around the corner, headlights sweeping upward. His men poured out again, rifles raised. The Tesla figure vanished. Gone. Like he'd never been there. Down, Milo shouted. They dove as gunfire erupted, Shaw's team targeting a second Tesla agent on the roof across from them. They crawled behind a ventilation unit. Metal pinged. Sparks flew. We're trapped, Milo muttered. They're boxing us in. Nova's phone buzzed again. She looked. A single word flashed on the screen. Return. Then again. Flashing. Syncing with her heartbeat. Return. 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 I don't understand, she whispered. I don't have the key. Cell does. That's not stopping it, Milo said. It's still synced to you. She clenched the phone. The signal had followed her. The pattern. The pulse. Like it wanted her, regardless of the hardware. The noise died down below. A pause. Too quiet. Nova stood slowly and looked over the edge. Shaw was talking into a headset, pointing toward the building. One of his agents scanned with a shoulder device, its dish turning slowly like a predator sniffing for heat. Then something shifted. From the alley's end, another Tesla agent approached, this one limping, holding his side. Blood on his shirt. Still walking like he knew where to go. Milo grabbed Nova's arm. We move now. They darted across the roof. Down another ladder. Into a stairwell. A shot rang out. Stone shattered near Nova's head. They slid into a lower corridor, kicked through a door, and found themselves in the back end of a subway construction site. Empty, echoing, half-lit with emergency strips. Nova's phone buzzed again. Not a word this time. Coordinates. A map fragment. Glitchy. Laura's. But she recognized the grid. That's Sector 7, she said slowly. Milo blinked. Isn't that where your brother disappeared? She nodded. Where it all started. She hadn't said those words out loud in years. Her mouth tasted like copper. The screen pulsed once more, return. Nova clenched her jaw. Her legs still shook, but inside her, something had shifted. She shoved the phone in her pocket. We're not running anymore. And they vanished into the dark. Back on the rooftop, Shaw lowered the headset with a snarl. The static had returned, another pulse had fried the comms for 5 seconds. 5 seconds too long. They're gone, one of his men said, eyes scanning the rooftops with thermal scopes. No heat signatures. They vanished. Shaw gritted his teeth. No one vanishes. Not like that. Not unless someone wants them to. He stepped over to the ventilation unit where Nova and Milo had taken cover. The metal was still warm. His gaze dropped to a smear of dust where someone had slipped during the crawl. Nova's tread. They're still close, Shaw said. And whoever's feeding her the signal, they're escalating. They want her to go to Sector 7. The agent beside him stiffened. Sector 7's blacklisted. Still sealed. Not anymore, Shaw muttered. He looked to the skyline, eyes narrowing toward the east. Prep the secondary team. We're not losing her again.
Chapter 16, Sector 7.
The road into Sector 7 was cracked, lined with overgrowth and caution signs that had long since lost their meaning. Nova drove in silence, hands tight on the wheel, Milo in the passenger seat holding the data box like it might detonate. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became. Trees gave way to skeletal pylons, rusted railways, and half-collapsed surveillance towers. The sky overhead looked wrong, washed out, motionless. Static clung to the horizon like old breath. They passed a checkpoint that had been flattened by something heavy. Concrete barriers split open like cracked teeth. A faded government seal peeled off a scorched sign, Sector 7, no entry. They parked behind a derelict maintenance shed. No cameras. No guards. No sign of life. Just the low hum of wind curling through shattered vents and the faint buzz of unseen machinery deep below. Are we really doing this? Milo asked quietly. Nova nodded. We need answers. And we're out of safe places. Inside, the walls of the transit hub were corroded with age, paint long blistered away. Pipes moaned overhead. Dust fell in lazy spirals. But the underground signal still pulsed faintly in her bones, like something forgotten was starting to wake. Her phone buzzed. A voice. Distorted. Nova. Her breath caught. She stared at the screen. It glitched, flickered, then stabilized into audio only. Elias? She breathed. Milo's eyes went wide. That's? The voice on the line was tired. Fragmented. But undeniably him. You made it farther than I thought, Elias said, his words slightly warped by delay and static. That's good. Listen. You have to get the data box to Cell. She's the only one who can decrypt the final layer. No one else knows how. Nova blinked hard. Elias, we were attacked. Tesla agents. One of them triggered a pulse, like the one from the attic. It responded to me. Not the key. A pause. That's expected, Elias replied. The systems still sync to your signal. Your presence completes the loop. They'll keep trying to intercept or redirect it, but you're the primary link now. Nova's voice shook. What if they get to me first? What if we don't make it? If you need help, ask Cell, Elias said. His voice softened. She's been waiting. I don't even know where she is, Nova whispered. You will, Elias said. When the time comes. There was a brief hitch in the static. Then something new, quieter, layered beneath his words. A second voice, whispering something unintelligible. Then silence. Elias, but the call was gone. Nova lowered the phone slowly, as if afraid it might burn her. She stared at the black screen. Milo didn't speak at first. Then, that was your brother. She nodded. He sounded off. Like something was pulling at him. Yeah. Nova glanced toward the lower tunnels. Or holding him there. She looked back at the surface once more, the dead sky, the ruins. Then at the box in Milo's hands. She felt the pulse again. Faint. Insistent. Do we go back? Milo asked. Nova shook her head. No. We go deeper. They turned and entered the tunnel, shadows swallowing them as the signal rose with every step. Behind them, on a high ledge of broken concrete, a small surveillance drone folded its wings and vanished into the dusk, silent, unseen, and transmitting. Transmitting.
Chapter 17. The Descent Protocol.
The tunnel narrowed quickly, walls pressed close like a collapsed throat. Their footsteps echoed off wet concrete as they descended, one flickering worklight at a time. Nova kept one hand on the wall, the other tight around the receiver. Milo followed close behind, cradling the data box like an injured animal. I don't like this, he muttered. Feels like we're walking into a ribcage. Nova said nothing. The air was getting colder. Heavy. Charged. Her skin prickled as if the tunnel were exhaling around her. They reached a junction, 3 branching paths, each darker than the last. A rusted sign overhead read, Archive Access, Alpha/Beta/Core. Nova pointed left. Alpha node. That's what the map showed. Milo knelt by a broken terminal at the intersection. Might still have juice. Let's see if it recognizes the box. He connected the data box. For a moment, nothing. Then, a flicker. Static lines resolved into a schematic, fragmented and redlined, but readable. We're here, Milo said, tapping the blinking dot. Alpha node's about 2 levels down, maybe more. There's a vertical shaft here. But, the terminal buzzed sharply. A red prompt flashed, security lockout engaged, protocol requires, signal key verification. Nova stepped forward. Try it again. Maybe it just needs. She touched the console. It pulsed warm beneath her hand. The screen shimmered, paused. Then cleared. Override detected, link, Nova/classified user. Milo stared. You're the key. Not the key, Nova murmured. The signal. But even with that, the system refused full access. The map vanished. The screen went dark. Static flared, then cut to silence. Then, a sound. Whispers. Not over the speaker, inside her skull. Nova jerked back. Milo caught her. You okay? She nodded slowly. I heard something. Like before. The voice under Elias's. A rumble moved through the floor, low, like something massive shifting far beneath. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Milo checked the data box. Its lights were pulsing rapidly now. Then a final line appeared on the dim screen, authorized node relay, contact, SELL/last trace, Ridge Outpost, 914 uplink wait, Nova said. That's her. That's Cell. Milo leaned closer. A relay signal. 914. Ridge Outpost. That's up in the old communication hills, west of the drop zones. Then that's where we go, Nova said, breath tight. The signal pressed against her chest now, warm and steady, like a second heartbeat. Behind them, deep in the shadows of the tunnel, something mechanical stirred. A soft whir. A shift of light. The drone wasn't alone. They moved.
Chapter 18, Shift.
The Ridge Outpost was barely more than a steel carcass balanced on a hill of broken antennae and scorched stone. Nova and Milo climbed the last rise, boots scraping gravel, lungs tight from the altitude. The signal had grown stronger here, insistent and sharp, like it was tunneling through her ribs. Cell was waiting. She stood outside the outpost's battered entrance, wrapped in a patched coat, her hair pulled back, face tight with something between relief and dread. You brought it? Nova nodded. Milo handed over the data box. Cell's hands trembled slightly as she took it. Good. We don't have much time. Come inside. The interior was half collapsed, shards of tech, snapped cables, an old terminal flickering dimly in the corner. Cell pushed the box into a cradle. A boot sequence flickered. Then the screen glitched. And Elias appeared. Not live. Pre-recorded. Angry. If you're seeing this, then something's gone wrong. The box should have been delivered already. You're wasting time. Cell blinked. This wasn't here before. Elias's face twitched slightly on the screen. Then the countdown appeared. 67 hours 13 minutes 4 seconds it blinked. 23:12 and 59 seconds everyone froze. Milo whispered, that's not possible. It just jumped. That's a full 2 days. Nova backed away from the terminal. Why would he do that? He wouldn't just take time away. Then a noise. Static. The screen glitched again. Elias's face returned, only this time, it was live. Nova. Milo. Cell. Listen carefully. The game has changed. The signal isn't clean. Someone else is in the system. Nova stepped forward, heart hammering. Why didn't you tell me? Elias looked exhausted. Shadows under his eyes. His voice was hoarse. Because I didn't know how to explain it. You were just supposed to carry the key, not become it. Cell turned. What do you mean, become it? Elias hesitated. Then something behind him, a flicker of movement. He glanced off screen, then back. I'm not alone here anymore. Whatever woke up. It's rewriting the rules. If the box isn't interfaced in time, the failsafe triggers. Nova's breath caught. Her whole body felt like it had been dunked in ice. And what is the failsafe? Elias looked straight at her. Containment. Global. Absolute. The screen went dark. Milo cursed. Cell hit the console, trying to recover the signal. Nothing. Just static. Then the drone came. Not the silent watchers from before. This one screamed, high-pitched and stuttering, metal wings skimming low over the ridge. Its single red eye locked onto the outpost, pulsing like a sniper scope. Go. Cell shouted. They ran. A second drone veered in from the clouds, trailing arcs of violet electricity. A sharp, mechanical voice echoed across the ridge, unauthorized transfer detected. Signal breach. Intercept protocol initiated. Milo shoved a steel door open as the first drone fired. Sparks tore through the frame. They dove through just before it collapsed. Inside, alarms triggered. Long dead speakers screeched with warning tones. Nova struggled to her feet, pulse rattling in her ears. In the sky above, more drones shimmered into view, emerging from clouds like hornets from a hive. One of them sprayed a net of sonic pulses, slicing through the air with a warping shriek that shattered nearby glass and made Milo scream and clutch his head. Outside, the air itself felt different. Heavier. Pressurized. Like something vast had noticed them. Nova clutched her chest. The signal was burning now, vibrating through every bone. She looked to Milo, who was staring at her with open fear. "It's not just me," she whispered. "It's using me." Cell pulled them toward the back of the outpost. An old elevator shaft. Broken, rusted. They climbed. From the ridge above, a low tone rang out, like a bell struck underwater. Not from the drones. From the sky. They looked up. A ripple was spreading across the clouds. A shimmering distortion, like heat above asphalt, but vertical. Something was arriving, or awakening. Something big enough to shift the air pressure like a storm front with the descent of a silent ship. Behind them, the outpost systems lit up, unprompted. Monitors glowed. A disused terminal scrolled lines of alien code, symbols none of them recognized. One camera lens turned slowly on its own. Watching. Nova turned one last